Hello everyone, Simon here from the Wells of Wall Street. Powerledger on our radar today, POWR on the exchange. A few snippets of information before we go into the chart, and just to reiterate my stance on the energy sector with blockchain. Of course, I'm really enthused about how this peer-to-peer mechanism will be working for us to become prosumers and be able to trade excess energy in forms of carbon credits to one another across the world, however we want to do it. We're trying to decentralize the system, move away from our national grids and high bills and all this other nonsense around the world. Companies in the energy sector are making obscene profits while our bills are going up. It's time to make a change. It's time to educate ourselves in another area. And for me, the energy sector is extremely important. And particularly as we talk about the climate changes and things like this. Do you know what? Even when I was at school, I was writing things in my assignments and things about climate change and the increase in things like the water flow and the water rising, and that maybe even some capital cities around the world will become coastlines purely from the fact of the rising levels of water. And we're seeing this today, yet back then my assignments were thrown in the bin by the teachers saying I was talking absolute nonsense. I'm not saying climate change is not business driven or always sometimes a bit of an agenda, but the fact of the matter is the world is indeed changing around us. If you can't see that, I suggest you put your phones down, stop watching Netflix and Love Island, and understand that things are rapidly changing in our environments. I live near the coast. The defense lines are being built more and more as the days go by. Hundreds of millions of pounds being spent on big rocks being put by the coastlines to stop the water rising over the next 10-20 years and support and hopefully create safety for the coastline cities. That aside, we want to talk here about Powerledger. Of course, this is one of the projects similarly to like Energy Web that we follow and hold in our portfolio. I'm not a huge holder of Powerledger. I will explain that momentarily when we get to the chart section and why I'm now accumulating more to try and catch up with that scenario. But we've got a few webinars here. I'm not going to play them. I want you guys hopefully to have some time to find these. 28th of June, this one was from, and really cool, Dr. Gemma, who we had on our channel, if you remember, a few months ago. Do go check out that AMA. I'll leave a link at the end of this one. And you can also see the intro video to Powerledger as well if you want to learn more. But very, very interesting YouTube video here that they put together about democratization of the energy market. This is talking about essentially decentralizing ourselves as people, improving the economy, improving the sustainability factor, and the ability of blockchain, of course, from the verification and the transferring abilities transaction-wise of carbon credits, meaning that we have a fairer system, a more transparent system, and hopefully one that's cheaper for us as users of energy. And the fact that we can just pass it around, which is absolutely brilliant, not be dictated by these big companies anymore. So that was a bit of a snippet to point out. The other one here, Sanger Capital Investment have put some taken a stake really of Powerledger, increasing the value, I guess, of Powerledger in the sense that people are starting to wake up to this opportunity in a top level. And here's a point I just highlighted. Powerledger has developed a blockchain-enabled renewable energy trading platform, which is targeting 1 million users by 2025. Now, this is just Powerledger, and I think this is a staggering number to think about. And can you imagine in 5 to 10 years' time, how big this sector will be in regards to blockchain and the use in the energy sector? And Powerledger themselves are trying to become a leader in this. Massive case studies already in Australia. They've been built, or not themselves, but there's been apartment blocks being built in Australia, for example, where Powerledger are based currently, and across other countries, of course. But and they're utilizing blockchain technology within this system and operating that case study of peer-to-peer. If a neighbor of yours has too much energy excess, they can pass it to someone else at a reasonable rate, and one that's essentially standardized, so there's no fluctuation of prices other than supply and demand. But there's none of this like brokering fees or your supplier fees ratings going up and this, that, and the other. So it's really cool to see that. And there's a few other webinars to focus on. This one in particular, a few days ago, the impact of innovation on the green economy. This was also about like the staking mechanisms and in general. I mean, here in the UK, there's a lot of wind farms now on our coastlines in the distance, and I think like each wind turbine can power something like 1,000 to 1,500 houses per turbine. Of course, it depends on the wind. Of course, sometimes it's not windy. I totally understand that, but the ground mechanism is like all these renewables are increasing day by day. The solar panels in our farms locally as well, and our bills are still going up. Yet we're using 100% renewable energy. Well, why are our bills going up? And it's also, of course, things that go on around the world supposedly affect the energy prices. If you do some research, you'll find that a lot of that's all made up, and we're just paying for the profits of these companies and these people, right? I think this time needs to stop, and people need to definitely educate themselves more and understand more what's around them, and question things more than ever before, rather than get distracted by things. So there's a really good webinar, and finally there was another one here on LinkedIn, and I wanted to pick this screenshot out particularly when I was watching this, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Blockchain technology in the energy market is predicted to hike from $200 million from 2018 to $18 billion by 2025. That is absolutely incredible. Obviously, we need to achieve that. This is just scaling on trend and statistics, of course, I'm sure. Global Market Insights Inc. was the one that supplied that information, and they've obviously used that numbering. But I think that's incredible, guys. Can you imagine the magnitude of the energy sector within blockchain and arguably what we're investing in? I think we're on to absolute gems. And like EWT is doing very well, Powerledger, in fact, we're going to the chart for this topic here right now. Powerledger has been on a nice rise towards the latter stages of last year. But my point being about this, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not a huge holder of Powerledger. I was buying Powerledger or POWR around 50 cents, especially around last year's time, which was quite high. We hit highs, I think, very much not too far off the dollar. In fact, I think we might have succeeded the dollar. I can't remember. I think it was maybe just over, but certainly the previous all-time high was way up here. But more recently, we're paying attention to. I've drawn two horizontal lines in here, and the reason I've done that is I've been DCAing on the way down. Some people are saying around the whole markets at the moment that we're hitting the bottom areas. I'm not fully convinced by that, and that's why I've still got strategic buy options here at these lower regions of around 17 cents and just under the 15 cent mark as well. You're probably thinking, well, why are you doing that? Because we're on our way up. I've learned so much in these many years of trading and investing. I want to pinpoint this out. We've already touched down twice, back down to this 16, 17 cent area, both here on the 14th, 15th of May and around the 15th of June. If you look back in time, you will see in this particular area of these previous lower regions that we saw around 12 cents and where we're looking at around now 17, 20 cents. The gaps are not touched in too much. We've got this area here back in February 2021 and June and August respectively in 2021 as well. But literally we pass by these areas quite quickly, and I think that that's not enough support in my mind to suggest that we can definitely confirm this area. The last two have been rejections, which is great to see, but I don't think I'm fully convinced to suggest that we are fully out. So that's why I've got my buy orders in here. I'm not suggesting Powerledger is definitely coming down to those areas. I'm just saying, based on history, based on data, based on experience, it's worthwhile putting some buy orders in here. If it goes up, fantastic, we've made money, right? If we've been buying around these areas and it goes up, flying back up to 50, 60, brilliant, doubled money, fantastic. But I do think we can still be potentially touching back down to these areas, and I have, as I said, touched upon these points because of these areas up here where it rejected back here in the beginning of last year, 2021. That could be a good decided point if Bitcoin does decide to come back down to $12,000-$15,000, or maybe even lower. We could see the Powerledger coming down to those areas too. Even the train agrees. So we've got here on the indicators a pinpointed point that I make on most videos in the last few weeks is this stabilization factor. I feel like the behavior of investors right now is on the mindset of DCAing. They're probably at losses if you weren't taking advantage, like I wasn't with Powerledger, at the top ends, because I'm a long-time holder for these and I'm not too fussed about buying, selling some of these assets. You're going to see in the trend lines and the indicators here that it's quite stabilized. We've had the big impacts of in and out in the last few months, but more recently the intake and the outtake has been quite minimal, and you can see the volumes have reduced even further in the last few weeks. This is indicating to me that people are feeling like it's near the bottom, but it's not possibly quite there yet. The confidence isn't fully there to be chucking loads and loads of money in there. That's why DCAing is a great strategy of accumulation. And we can see, as I said, everyone's psychology seems to be very similar. Of course, things are going on around the macro world and our bills are going crazy here in the UK. I'm sure it's the same across the world as well. Employment and this, that and the other is an issue. You have to be very wary of these things. And if you've got disposable income, will it go a lot into investment, or will it be paying for things that we don't really want to pay for? This is the world that we live in. RSI, 14 days at 52. It's quite high in my opinion for like to accumulate at this stage, albeit that I do think Powerledger, irrespective of whether you're buying at 50 cents or 24 cents, is going to be huge in the future. You may just completely disregard what I'm saying about these indicators and just do it anyway. But for me, I always try and find the dips. So for me personally, I'm just waiting for that 14-day to come back down a bit more if it does. But equally on that point, the 28 days at 44, so that's still quite low if you're looking at a longer spectrum of like a month's trading or a month's investment perspective. That is quite a good entry point. Obviously not as low as we've seen before here in the May and also here on the 14th of June. But actually good points to make is that these numbers are rising slowly but surely. But yeah, for me, I'm just waiting for that next dip and then I'll be DCAing in again. Just because I've got money aside doesn't mean I have to go and chuck it in right now. I'm just trying to be savvy about it. The MACD is showing positivity as well, so we're still in this miniature upward trend. It has narrowed slightly, which is why I'm seeing a bit more stabilization. I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see whether we're really taking this up to other levels or if we need to start suggesting that this might be coming down lower for some accumulation points. So that's covered a few things there. That's what I'm doing with mine, and as I said, I was buying mine around 50 cents. It's back down at these areas. I have been DCAing around the 17, and where it is around about just now, I know it's not much difference, but I was buying somewhere around 21, I think, just over the 20 cent mark. It's gone up a bit since then, and the performance indicators are proving that as well. The week's up 3%, which is good to see a bit of green there. The 1 month is coming down gradually. It's at 17 negative. Sounds really bad, but it's better than it was before. And actually the 3 month and the 6 months on 55, 63% respectively are equally coming down slowly but surely. This is actually one of the better assets indicator wise that I've seen, to be honest. But as I said, the energy sector is huge already. With blockchain, it's going to be bigger. You have to look ahead. Do not look at right now. You can obviously be excited about what's going on now and the developments, but please understand where we are going with all this. We just showed some statistical numbers about 2025. I think it would be bigger, and I certainly think it would be a hell of a lot bigger by the end of 2030 and beyond. If you're looking at like future investments, this could be an absolute diamond in the rough, in my opinion. I'm super excited about Powerledger. I love the team. I love the enthusiasm. I love the research that they do, the communication, and I love the partnerships. And I love, more importantly, what they are doing in the real world right now. Not in the future. They are already starting to do it. And if that rolls out and the trials go well, as I know they will, this will fly out the gates into other countries. And then you're talking about the utilization and mass adoption. That's what we want in the energy sector, using the Powerledger tokens as a utility. Brilliant stuff. Guys, I'm going to wrap that up there. Please leave your comments below. Do you hold Powerledger? Are you interested in Powerledger? If you are interested and you don't know enough, go check out our AMA. Go and check out our intro video. They're coming up on the screen as soon as I stop talking. But if you can't reach those, you can always check out their website. Always good information. I'm going to wrap that up there, guys. Thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you very soon with the next Powerledger video. Take care and bye-bye.